Good afternoon and a warm welcome to today's joint event between MMU, Chartered Bankers Institute and ICAEW Northwest. This is an ongoing collaboration to deliver a number of events that explore digitisation and finance. Over the coming months, we'll explore topics such as sustainability, sustainable finance, and the key role that financial institutions and professional bodies play in advancing the sustainable finance agenda. Today, we are joined by Verna Gellvear. Did I get that right, Verna? Near enough?
Yeah, you did, you passed. Well done.
Verna's from Hmrc's Customer Readiness and External Stakeholder team. And Verna's going to talk through making tax digital changes that have taken place and provide some context of what Hmrc want making tax digital to deliver in the longer term, and how the legislation might evolve. The Hmrc presentation will cover what businesses need to do to comply with making any tax digital updates, offering you face-to-face advice from the expert herself. This is a great opportunity to hear direct from Hmrc, and I know that Verna is happy to answer questions at the end. And to ask these questions, please enter them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Without further ado, I'll hand you over to Verna. And Verna, good luck, and I'll speak to you again shortly.
That's great. Thanks, Justin. That's a show I need luck, but thank you. That's slightly ominous. You feel the need to offer me. Always daunting being introduced as the expert, to be honest.
If it was me, it was Take care.
Okay. So let me see if I just got my presentation up. So as perhaps while I'm doing that, I'll introduce myself a little bit further to expand on what Justin said. First of all, thank you to the organisers for inviting me to speak to you today, and as guest, thank you for dialing in to speak to me. As Justin said, my name is Verna Gellvear, and I work on the Customer Readiness and External Stakeholder team for Hmrc. Very grand title. And my role on the team is to go out to events like this and talk about Hmrc's plans for making tax digital. Perhaps a bit of background about me to put me in context. I always think that's helpful to know. Is I've worked for Hmrc for the last, the last 20 years, and I started off my time at Hmrc as a VAT inspector. So I've done my VAT legal and technical training, etc., as well as coming out to visit businesses to look at their books and records. If we were meeting face to face, I would now pause and give you the opportunity to boo me, because I know I am not the most popular person in the business community. But hopefully I may change your minds by the end of this. The reason for me kind of talking about that is to say that I do have that technical knowledge, and I understand the problems perhaps businesses and organisations are having with Hmrc's plans for, I suppose, specifically making tax digital for VAT. So really encourage you, as Justin said, to put any of your questions in the chat box. If I can, I will answer them. If I can't, I will endeavour to take them away and feed the answers back through ICAEW or MMU or CBI, whoever would like to do that for me. I am a career civil servant, and I've sat through many death by PowerPoint presentations. Please don't let this be one of them. Please put your questions into the chat box and let's have a little bit of a dialogue. I appreciate you never really normally see somebody from Hmrc, so take the opportunity to ask me your questions, only about making tax digital. I can't help you with anything else really. So a little bit about what my presentation is going to do today. It's difficult for me to know where you are up to with your MTD journey, so I don't want to patronise you, but then I don't want to also kind of assume a level of knowledge that you might not have. So apologies if I'm not pitching this quite right. I'm going to talk about MTD and why Hmrc are applying making tax digital to the tax administrative system. I'm going to talk you through HMRC's plans, so that the past, present and future plans for making tax digital, and to talk to you perhaps, hopefully maybe via your questions about how you can prepare for making tax digital going forward. So why are HMRC doing making tax digital? Well, it's HMRC's plan to be one of the most digitally advanced tax administration systems in the world. And in July 2020, we published a 5 to 10 year vision to bring the tax administration framework up to date. And what we want to do is inhibit tax avoidance and also extend making tax digital. We want to make sure that there is a single tax account for customers, and also make sure that we harmonise the timings and frequency of the tax payments for customers. So what is making tax digital? Well, it's the government's, as I say, attempt to digitalise the tax system. Why are we doing it? It's part of a long-term vision. So ignoring that, and why are we doing it? What we want to do is we want to stop businesses making mistakes and errors. We're not out to try kind of tackle avoidance through making tax digital. It's just to try and stop you making errors. Obviously, the benefit to HMRC is that we collect more revenue by you not making those errors. But in theory, we're supposed to be making tax easier for you so that you can continue doing your business and you don't have to concentrate on doing your tax. It becomes more natural and a flow of your business. So that's the benefits to HMRC and the business. So why making tax digital? Well, we think that if we make things digital, we will help you be able to concentrate more on your business affairs. We make it more, and in fact, COVID has kind of shown that businesses that keep their books and records in the cloud-based system are more able to carry on their tax affairs because of working from home, so they don't have to go into the office to be able to complete their tax returns kind of going forward. And as I say, the end point there is that we want to minimise the tax gap by customers making errors. So the timelines so far, going back to the budget 2015, that's when HMRC or the Chancellor then announced making tax digital rules. So my slides are moving on, so I'm trying to move them back again. In April 20, now this is really interesting for me, as I go out and speak at a lot of these events, and people think that HMRC don't take any interest in what people say. But in April 2017, HMRC launched a pilot into making tax digital for income tax. So income tax is going to be the first tax that we digitalised. But then because of feedback that we got from people, businesses and customers out there, we decided to pull back on the making tax digital for income tax and instead introduce making tax digital for VAT going forward. So hopefully you will be aware that we've now mandated making tax digital for VAT, and there is a making tax digital for income tax pilot currently underway at the moment. And we are also consulting on the next tax, which is corporation tax. So just to go through those timelines again, currently making tax digital for VAT is mandated. If you are VAT registered with a turnover above £85,000, you should be submitting your VAT returns digitally. There is a pilot, MTD pilot for income tax that is underway, and making tax digital for income tax will be mandated in April 2023. And we are currently consulting with businesses and representative bodies about making tax digital for corporation tax. And if you're interested in getting involved in any of those consultation events, have a little look on gov.uk and you can sign up to be involved in the consultation period for corporation tax. Okay, so as I say, making tax digital for VAT was the first tax that we've mandated digitally. So what's happened currently is we've had 1.4 million businesses signed up to submit their VAT returns digitally. That's over 85% of the mandated businesses have signed up to submit their VAT returns digitally. So we're working on the 15% who are mandated who haven't yet signed up. So if you're a business out there who are VAT registered and your taxable turnover is over 85%, and you haven't signed up to Making Tax Digital yet, and you're kind of confused and you're not too sure what to do, put your questions in the chat box and let's have a go. Let's see if I could help you join the Making Tax Digital for VAT Club. Interestingly as well, over 30% of the non-mandated VAT businesses have signed up to Making Tax Digital. So those are businesses who are VAT registered and their VAT threshold is under 85, their VAT turnover is under £85,000. So over 30% of those businesses have signed up. So they can see the advantages of Making Tax Digital as well. It's not just Verna making it up. Those 30% can see the advantages of Making Tax Digital as well. And then in terms of HMRC, well, Making Tax Digital for VAT is very much business as usual now. We've had over 6.5 million VAT returns submitted via the MTD service. If you're looking for software, if you haven't got your Making Tax Digital software yet, there's a variety of software products out there. You can find them on gov.uk, a list of our software providers on gov.uk. And there are some, just to let you know, there are some free versions out there as well. And if people have questions over spreadsheets and bridging software, I can expand on those if you want to put them into the chat box. I'm happy to expand on those. In fact, I might just do that after I stop these blooming slides moving on. So a lot of people ask me, have HMRC evaluated the success of Making Tax Digital for VAT? And really, it's bit too soon in the process for us to have done that, but we have done, and all the kind of the research that has come out has been either overwhelmingly positive or neutral. There has been no negative kind of reports on Making Tax Digital for VAT. So as I mentioned, the next tax that is going to be digitized is MTD for ITSA. That's income tax. I don't know if any of the businesses that have joined us today are interested in this, but there is a pilot for MTD for income tax. There are currently 6 commercial software products available. If you are interested in joining the pilot, you would need to be using one of those software products. What we are doing at the moment is trying to formulate our policy on MTD for income tax. And we are talking to various representative bodies and businesses to make sure that we take all your concerns on board before we roll it out and mandate it in April 2023. Which brings me on to the next slide, which is upcoming milestones. So as I touched on, we have started consulting on MTD for corporation tax, and those consultations are underway at the moment. April 2021, as I said, the pilot service for income tax has launched. April 2022, so all VAT registered businesses, regardless of your turnover, will need to be submitting their VAT returns digitally. So that's in April 2022. And then from April 2023, all unincorporated businesses, self-employed and landlords must sign up to Making Tax Digital for income tax. So they're the upcoming milestones. If you need, this is always like a worthwhile screen for me to focus on, where you can get help. Don't just email me, although I do appreciate you feel you know me now, and I will help you if I can. But if you're going through any of HMRC systems, there should be a Get Help with this page link at the bottom of your page. If you want to click on that link, it will open up a box that will enable you to put your details in and the problems that you're having on that screen. HMRC will then undertake to get back to you and give you an answer to the problem that you're having. If you're having any problems with your VAT, there's a VAT helpline number there. And if you want to register for your online services account, if you need to recover any of your passwords, you can use that link there. And if you're an agent and you need your 2-step verification resetting, you can phone that helpline there. And that's it for me, Justin. I'm aware I kind of rattled through that, mainly because my slides were moving on, to be fair. So if anyone's got any questions, I will try and answer them for you now.
Thanks, Verna. I'm glad that my camera has loaded up and you don't have a picture of a cat to talk to. So thanks for that. That was a really interesting presentation. For me, particularly interesting to hear about the income tax piece as well. So it's over to the people that have joined us on the call today. So it's the opportunity now to ask some questions. Please pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the webinar, on the bottom of your screen. And if you can get those questions in, I'll start asking those of Vernon. Hopefully we'll be able to cover some various different topics. Again, you know, this is one of those great opportunities where we actually have someone here from Hmrc who is willing to discuss with these. So I've got one here. First question, Verna, is how is Hmrc making use of artificial intelligence to detect fraud?
Okay, so really, it's kind of awkward for me to talk about something like artificial intelligence. All I'm talking about today is Hmrc's plans for making tax digital in terms of how making tax digital has changed our compliance. I guess when I used to be a compliance officer, an assurance officer, and I used to go out, I used to visit businesses 4 days a week and spend 1 day a week in the office. In terms of how, I suppose, digitalization, not artificial intelligence, but how digitalization has affected that kind of historic role that I had, is we would now be looking for records to be sent to us via a key or something like that, rather than me to go out and look through a Simplex D books, which perhaps a lot of your audience won't know what a Simplex D kind of book is. So I suppose going forward, it will help us target our risks and our risks kind of, I suppose when I was an assurance officer, I would probably go out to businesses just to check their books and records. Whereas I think going forward, we can perhaps target our risks more and to businesses that we think may be making mistakes or may have made errors or may even be avoiding or evading paying tax. And I think I think that's one of the advantages of digitalizing records, is perhaps we can be more pinpoint our resources more accurately rather than more widespread as we have been in the past. Not too sure whether that answers the question.
No, that's great. Thank you. A quick question from someone. Will you be happy to share the presentation?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Got a question from Small Practice. Is bridging software still going to be okay to use for Excel records? Okay,
I really wanted to touch on this. So thank you very much for asking this. I do a lot of events where I go out and software providers ask me to go out and talk at events that they put on for their clients. I think having somebody from Hmrc there is seen as like a bit of a kudos for them, that they have, you know. So I love going out to these software events because sometimes I can see or I can hear them trying to upsell their products and tell customers out there that you need a cloud-based software system to be able to comply with making tax digital. However, you don't. This is someone from Hmrc telling you that if you want to keep your records in a spreadsheet, and if you want to use a bridging spreadsheet, a bridging product to be able to get that 9-box figures to Hmrc, that is MTD compatible as far as Hmrc are concerned. And there is no intention in the long term for Hmrc to withdraw that facility, because we understand that some businesses choose to or prefer to keep their records like that. However, it's probably fair of me to say that we don't feel you'd be getting the full benefits of MTD if you're still keeping paper records, typing them into a spreadsheet and sending them to Hmrc. That's kind of, it's not the full digital journey, but it is MTD compliant. And if that's what you want to do, you can continue doing it. And that is a long-term solution for you.
Okay. And kind of, I suppose, moving on from that, we start talking about software, and obviously go on to talk about fintech. So how is Hmrc collaborating with fintechs for the next generation of making tax digital?
Okay, so you enlighten me what fintech is, and then I'll be able to tell you what I might be able to tell you. Oh, now Stuart, I can't hear you. I don't know if
I muted myself there by accident. It was a cough, unfortunately. So we talk about tech companies, software developers
okay.
who've been sort of, I suppose, trailblazing in this piece for a little while now.
Yeah.
To make sure that you are talking to them, collaborating with them, to make sure that as they sort of move along in the sort of, you know, like giant leaps and bounds that they are, that your systems are still actually going to be able to talk to theirs. And
so it's great. That's a really good question, and thank you for explaining that to me, Stuart. So yes, so we are collaborating with them. There's a part of our team who work very closely with the software developers. We work with a whole range of software developers. We allow them to test their products in our sandpit environment. We allow them, and for MTD for VAT, what we did is during the pilot, and what we are doing with the MTD for it's a pilot at the moment is if you sign up for the pilots, we will actually hand hold you through submitting your updates, so we can actually check that the systems are working, so we can help the software developers iron out any problems that they may have with their products. And I guess we kind of work with them to ensure that they are aware of our future plans, so they can build those into their plans going forward. So it is very much a collaboration. And I suppose really what we try and do is encourage them, certainly for MTD, for ICAEW, there is a commitment from Hmrc that there will be free products. We want to encourage them to perhaps have loss leaders as well, you know, see the advantages of having loss leaders and providing free products by them, and then building their customer base. And as I said, so that's a kind of like the techie side, and we do work quite closely with the techie side. And then on the kind of the communication side, as I say, I work very closely with the software providers. And things I do is if I come out to events like this and I hear concerns people have that their software doesn't do certain things, or at one stage, some of the agents couldn't see their client list in software, and I could take that feedback back to software companies. And then there was a certain software company who I won't name who then built their software that designed so that they could see, that the accountants could see a client list within their software. So it's very much a flowing kind of a to and froing kind of collaborative approach that we have with the software developers. Definitely.
Brilliant. We've got a question from Vincent Fitzsimmons. Will the VAT data be integrated with company data? When goes making tax digital to corporation tax to check corporation tax realism?
Yeah, so I guess this is something that I suppose the long-term future. So we haven't announced exactly what we will be doing for corporation tax at the moment, and that's why we've got the consultation period. But I have been on a few of the consultation events and facilitated some of those events when we have had colleagues from Companies House on those calls. So I'm guessing kind of long-term, that might be one of, I mean, and I think it certainly should be hopeful that we would integrate with those kind of systems as well, but whether that's kind of in the future, as I say, at the moment we are consulting on it, so I don't really know what the future of that will be, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand. You'd hope that they would do.
Okay, thanks, and Vincent says thanks as well.
Okay.
We've still got a few more minutes if some of the participants would like to send over a question to ask Verna. Obviously, it's great to have Verna here and giving us some stuff. Oh, here we go. Here's another question from Stuart. What will making tax digital look like in 10 years' time? Yeah,
well, that's the kind of the interesting question, isn't it? I think so. When I read out that it's like Hmrc's ambition to be one of the most digitally advanced, a little bit of me kind of grimaces a little bit, because again, as part of this role, I've been out and done presentations, and I've seen what other tax authorities have done. across the world, internationally. And really in the UK, in my opinion, we are very much just touching the surface of what other tax authorities have done. So I guess in terms of HMRC's ambition is that we will have one single tax account for businesses or their agents to access all their tax affairs. So that's really why we started with MTD for VAT. The majority of businesses out there submit quarterly returns. So the idea will be that for the other taxes, for self-assessment, income tax self-assessment, and for corporation tax, we will bring those in line. So it won't be an annual return anymore, it will be quarterly updates. So businesses in the future will be able to, in theory, see their tax liabilities in more or less real time, rather than have that huge kind of, you know, the end of the year they file and they think that their business has done really well, and then they file their CT return or their self-assessment return and suddenly get hit with a big tax bill that they didn't see coming because they haven't done that financial planning. So I think in 10 years' time, hopefully tax will become easier in that, and a more of a rhythm. There will be more of a natural rhythm for it. In terms of accountants, it will give them the ability to do less of the kind of tick and turn and more of a say the financial planning for the business, and maybe stop people going insolvent or bankrupt, stop that problem. You know, if they can see it happening a bit more in real time, that, you know, businesses are overstretching themselves where in effect they look like they're doing well, but if you can see their tax that they need to pay, perhaps they're not doing as well as they think they are. So it will enable more secure financial planning going forward. I would hope that should be the aim anyway.
Yeah, I suppose that goes hand in hand with people becoming a bit more financially literate when they're starting and running their own business, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think in terms of, you know, in terms of tax, it would be nice to see it become a lot more automated rather than, you know, that kind of historic kind of people go with their bags of paperwork at the end of the year or the end of their VAT quarter, and so it doesn't become so onerous. It just becomes, you know, you get an invoice, you scan it, it updates your computer system. It's as simple as that. You don't even have to sit down and type it in, and then you can look at it and you think, oh yeah, that's what my tax liability is. You know, if you can, and you know, the tools are out there to do it, scanning of the invoices. You know how far technology has gone. You know, well, I don't think I am old, but perhaps I am old these days. But you know, like you tap your debit card, you don't hardly anyone has cash anymore. You know, everything's so automated now. You know, that's you know, if we can get tax a lot more automated, and plus it also stops. That comes back to HMRC's rationale behind doing it is to stop people making those errors, those kind of transposition errors, or posting things in the wrong place. If you can automate more of these things, then, you know, it stops those kind of errors happening as well. And tax becomes less taxing is my my phrase of the day. It just becomes more, it gives people the ability to concentrate on their businesses more than on their tax affairs, which I think people really want to do if they're in business. When I used to go out and do my VAT visiting, I used to feel like sorry for the people that are, you know, a mechanic or a plumber or a hairdresser. That's what they want to do. They want to do their plumbing or their hairdressing. They don't want to do their tax, you know. So if you can automate it and make it less onerous for them, that's got to be better going forward.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got lots of questions flying in now. You'll be pleased to know. So,
good, I am. Good.
I've got one here from Tarlock, which is why £10,000 threshold for ITSA?
Yeah, I don't know why that is the threshold, but I don't actually know why they came to that figure, but that is certainly the figure that it is, and it is just income from rental income or self-employed income. So yes, that is a £10,000 threshold. I suppose that comes back to a bit to like, why is the taxable threshold for VAT £85,000? I don't know where that limit has been set.
Okay. Michael Taylor is asking, how much have these innovations been driven or shaped by the widespread adoption of platforms like Xero and QuickBooks? Presumably, it's all helped.
Yeah, I mean, and there are other software providers out there. I don't think Hmrc's strategy is in any way predicated by the software providers. I would like to think we influence them rather than they influence us. And certainly, as I say, I've seen them design systems based on Hmrc's customer requirements. But it is certainly, and then I think the bank feed kind of things that you have now, they definitely link into, so that's the software industry, I think, developing on the back of Hmrc's kind of long-term strategy. But that's the kind of all singing or dancing, and I still come back to, was it Claire's question about the bridging software and the spreadsheets, that you can have all that and that is great, but if you're not that way inclined and you don't want to use that cloud-based kind of software system, you can still keep your records on a spreadsheet and get them to Hmrc via a bridging software. And just to be clear, there is free bridging software out there, and you'll be able to find it on gov.uk if that's how you want to submit your records.
Yeah, okay. One suggestion is that people in the future will be paid daily rather than monthly. How will Making Tax Digital be able to cope with this near real-time system?
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's what we're aiming for. I mean, I can't comment on particular daily rates of pay, but that is really kind of one of the premises of Making Tax Digital, is that you keep your records in as close to real time as possible, because we would think, if you come back to why we're doing Making Tax Digital, it's to stop those errors and those transposition errors. We think if you keep it in as close to real time as possible, you'll stop those errors occurring. And I can certainly say, as an ex-VAT inspector, that when I used to go out and visit businesses and records, literally the majority of the small, medium enterprises that I did meet, if I were to raise an assessment, much as I would go home going, great, I've justified my existence and that I've found money for Hmrc. If I sat there of an evening, I'd think, yeah, but all that business has done really was make a mistake. They put it in the wrong column, or they put the figures round the wrong way, or they've misinterpreted something. I very, very rarely found businesses that were actually, like evading or avoiding paying tax, really. So if we can stop businesses making those kind of mistakes, it has to be of benefit to the businesses. And then that comes back to I think the first question is, then Hmrc can then target their resources to more of the people who are avoiding or evading paying tax, which is really what we all want to do, isn't it? Really, not the poor guys making mistakes. Yeah. Make the mistakes, don't make the errors. We can stop those, then we can get the bigger kind of players that aren't paying the right amount of tax.
We've had another question from Vincent, and it's with regards to digital currency. So how does Hmrc, how possible is it to introduce digital currency into Making Tax Digital in the future?
Yeah, well, digital currency, I don't know, to be fair, and I'm not so sure any of my colleagues have come away at like the Bitcoin thing that's really in the news at the moment, isn't it? I know in terms of like foreign currency, we can deal with foreign currency, and we have a lot of businesses who trade in like foreign currency, and we can cope with that and the various exchange rates, and there is a way of doing that for businesses and what exchange rate that they should be using. So I'm going to guess going forward we will have to find a way, if we don't already, of dealing with that kind of the digital currency. I guess we might have to, because looking at it, it seems to be, on the increase as well, doesn't it?
Well, I certainly think with Tesla's 1.5 billion in Bitcoin.
Yeah, amazing. So, amazing.
It's kind of here to stay, I think, now, isn't it?
Yeah. On a kind of similar note, it's like, we've had to find ways. When I first started, VAT visiting, there was very little of the online shops, the Amazon and things like that. Hmrc have had to move with the times to kind of, how do you deal with the online you know, the online sellers as well. You know, they have no presence for you to kind of go and visit, but you know, we've found ways of doing that, and I do think we react quickly to things like that. And certainly, I mean, on a kind of a different kind of note, in terms of, you know, the current pandemic, you know, Hmrc moved very fast to be able to put schemes in place, the job retention scheme, the furlough scheme, etc., etc. We moved very quickly, and the reason why we could do that is because, you know, our platforms are able to do that. So that's the Hmrc kind of moving with technology to be able to do that.
And how, I suppose a question for me, and you might have already answered it, but how adaptable and agile is Hmrc for making tax digital when, you know, we've got the budget coming on the 3rd of March, and you read a lot in the press at the moment about some of the retailers demanding that there's an online retailer tax. So potentially, and you know, you're looking at some of the things that Rishi is being cajoled into looking at, and a complete review of tax and how and who pays tax, and that's going to be a real challenge for Hmrc, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I mean, but Hmrc budgets, you know, there's always a constraint as to what is Treasury, what is the Chancellor going to kind of announce, and obviously with, you know, the pandemic that came, who saw that coming, but we did, in terms of making tax digital, we did make some concessions to that. So there is a need for businesses to have digital links if they have different kind of computer systems. You know, say one office in Scotland has one computer system, one office in London has another computer system, but they're under the same VAT registration. They have to have a digital link to be able to feed into a central office. So we announced that there was a soft landing period for those digital links to be put in place, because we understood that it might take businesses a while to be able to get their software and those digital links in place. When COVID hit, we extended that soft landing period again for another year, and that comes to an end in the end of April. So yeah, we are able to, our systems have been built, you mentioned Agile, our systems have been built in an Agile way, and we continually manage to adapt them. And in a way, when, because I was involved in MTD more, well, kind of when I joined it, it was just as like mandation came in. And so when people started submitting their MTD returns, I wouldn't say it went wholly smoothly. Certainly some people did have problems, and it was a little bit trying to explain to them, I know this is of no help to you, but this, we've built our systems in, and so you've hit this problem, we will now amend our system and adapt our system to be able to overcome that, because that's what building in an agile way kind of is, that we do that, and then we build and we make improvements to the system. So we don't announce it and go, okay, this is MTD for that, that's absolutely fabulous, and you get on with it. We go, okay, yeah, we know that we need to refine it, and I think that's how we will do it going forward as well, really.
Another question, you mentioned automation. Would accounting software integration and auto assessment not be the way to go? Not only VAT, but also corporate tax calculation for small enterprises.
So in terms of Hmrc would auto assess it. I don't think that's kind of one of Hmrc's plans. It's always very much that it's down to the customer to tell us how much tax that they want, that they should be paying, and then for us to check. I don't think there's ever any indication that we will go along those lines. And I suppose, perhaps going back to your question before then, and how will the forthcoming budget affect MTD for VAT, is that or MTD, Hmrc's plans for MTD. So Hmrc have like strategic objectives. There is Brexit, there is COVID, and there is MTD, and they are the three top strategic objectives for Hmrc. So Brexit is kind of ongoing. Who saw COVID coming? The MTD is very firmly one of the top three strategic objects. So if anyone on the call is kind of sitting there thinking, I hope MTD is going to go away, or people will go, it's not. MTD is, and to be fair, I don't think it should be. This really is, it should be a benefit for business, not just for Hmrc as well. So.
You just another question that's just popped into my head actually, and talking about some of the experiences that we've had dealing with businesses over the last few months, and what we found, and some of the insight that we got was some businesses were loosely, I suppose, they could have been accused, maybe it's a strong word, but accused of burying their heads in the sand a little bit when it came to COVID. And then as we got closer and closer to December 31st, the same was being said about businesses burying their head in the sand for Brexit, and expecting that, it'll all just happen and it won't really change their lives. Do you have a similar experience with making tax digital?
Yeah, I guess so. And I think because Hmrc have not announced penalties at the moment, because I think there was very much the MTD was never supposed to be used to be a stick to beat people with. It was always supposed to be like a softy, let's all work for this together and let's make it work. But I'm guessing that probably before the end of the year there will be some kind of announcement on penalties, because really there needs to be you need to be, for MTD for VAT is mandated, as I say, from next year for all the VAT population, so they need to be doing it then. And that was a little bit, if you are one of the businesses out there who is mandated and you haven't signed up to MTD for that yet, but you're apprehensive, how can I help you? What can we do to, because we've sent out letters, nudge letters, compliance letters, so it's difficult, but yeah, we will eventually be trying to say, I don't think there's ever any. It used to be, I think I went out to an event once and talked to an event, and one of the audience the audience was giving me a bit of a hard time, and someone was like, MTD is just it's just being introduced, so the government, we can all get it wrong and the government will then issue us with lots of penalties, and it's just a revenue making exercise, the Hmrc. And it's quite lovely to be able to say that, stand there and go, that's really not true at all. We haven't announced on penalties, we have no intention of applying penalties for anybody, certainly that we can see trying to comply with MTD. And that's always been my message. Like, as I say, as an expat inspector, I went out and I saw somebody really trying to comply with making tax digital, but perhaps, in my opinion, getting something slightly wrong, I wouldn't be penalising that person. I'd be going, okay, I think you're doing this wrong. Can you put it right for next time I come back? And next time I come back, if it was right, then that's fine. I think we're going to try and work together with businesses, but I think, like, just in your kind of, your question may also be about the people who are deliberately going, this isn't, I don't want to play this game, it's got nothing to do with me. And yeah, I think eventually we will be implementing penalties on these people. Yeah.
Okay. An interesting question from Kylie. I think it's more of maybe a philosophical question in some ways. Is, do you think we'll ever have a cashless society?
Kind of getting that way really now, aren't we?
I was gonna say, I've never got any cash.
Yeah. And it's funny, Kylie, because I always have that little bit of, people would come to my house and do work on my house, and if they ask me for cash, I'm a bit, they knew where I work, they wouldn't be asking me for cash. There's always that little bit of that, why are they asking me for cash, isn't it? Whereas if I can pay them by bank transfer or something, I know it's going into their bank account, and the likelihood is, if it's going into their bank account, that Hmrc should be able to, detect that at somewhere, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose as well. I mean, with COVID, lots of people whom you would have normally have paid tax in the past, like the window cleaner or whomever, will now actually take, you see them walking around sometimes, their little portable card machines.
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Details in the back of the business cards and all the rest of it. So
I'm like you, Justin. I'm like, I've got no cash. If someone does something, I'm like, oh no, it's 15. I've got no money on me. They pull out the card reader. I'm like, thank goodness for that.
Yes. I tend to hide behind the back of the settee when the window cleaners turn up, so they haven't got any cash. I've got a question from Stuart. I get lots of notices of coding. Will more digital tax make this worse or better?
In terms of your,
I'd say it's your income tax coding.
Yeah, in terms of your income, it'd be interesting, really, won't it? I suppose it should make it better, because in theory we should know more in real time what your code should be because of the returns that you're submitting. Because rather than, as I say, rather than doing it at the end of the year and one at the end of the year, you'll be doing it in a more kind of regular rhythm, which is the quarterly rhythm. So hopefully it should make it better.
Right. We haven't got any more questions. I don't know if anyone else wants to come in with another question before we wrap up. If not, it doesn't look as though anything's coming in, Verna. So I think what we can do is that we can call an end.
Okay, thank you.
The meeting. Look, it's been fantastic. It's been really interesting, and as usual, I found the Q&A bit at the end was really insightful. And
me too as well. I really miss face-to-face events, because it would always be when I was getting a cup of coffee that people would come up and say, "Can I just ask you?" You know, I appreciate it's really hard on a webinar. So thank you for those who did ask questions.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Thank you all, and a message from Tarlock saying thank you as well. Very helpful. And so we will close today's webinar on that. And all I can say is that we do have another in the series coming up in March. So please stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing you all again in the not too distant future. Thanks again, Verna, and have a great day.